Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hey, MotoAmerica fans, welcome to episode 31. This is a special one for us, and not just because we're on video and you get to see me.
And we're in a really nice chair.
That's the way, yeah. We're having a fireside chat with a Brit here, and after Jonathan introduced us, we've got another Brit on in Michael Hill.
Hey, guys.
So I'm surrounded by, we got an Australian, a Brit, we were introduced by a Brit, and here I'm just an ugly American. So, but we're glad to have Michael on. Michael is here with us at Road America this weekend, and I think it's his first time at Road America, and great indoctrination. He's been obviously to Laguna Seca every year for a long time, but coming to Road America is such a cool deal for him because we really take a lot of pride in this track. So Michael, welcome.
Thank you. No, thanks for inviting me. And I've got to say, Paul, this is some swanky patch you've got here.
You know, I
you
stay at the nicest places. I sit in the biggest chairs. It's like, what's the throne called on Games of Thrones? That's kind of this.
You're Jon Snow. You're the
I'm the Jon Snow of this show.
Please, do you actually watch that? I know we're going to talk about bikes, but Game of Thrones, what is that all about? I could never get into that.
I tried to watch a little bit of it, but I didn't really watch too much of it.
I binge watched the entire thing. I'd never seen any of it, but I knew this was going to be the final season. Yeah. So I binge watched from season 1, episode 1 in like 3 months. But somebody on our trip today, we did a media tour to Milwaukee with Jake Gagne and JD Beach. I think it was Gagne who said one of his friends got hurt. Oh no, it was one of the Gillums got hurt, had to spend some time in bed and watched the entire Game of Thrones in 8 days.
No.
Which means he basically watched it, I would think, non-stop.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that bad, but I did make sure I was caught up when the new season started. So.
And I just couldn't get into it. Couldn't get into it.
I didn't think I could, but it was one of those things where if you force your way through the first 2, then you're kind of good.
Yeah, and I watched the last. I didn't have a clue what was going on. Just drivers and people getting killed.
You wouldn't.
I'm terrible with the fact that if you don't see the beginning of a series, I don't want to join it in the middle and not know what's going on, so I just don't bother to watch it.
Yeah, but that's why they have shows that you can actually watch from the beginning.
Right, and I should have realized in the beginning it was something I should be watching. So anyway, let's talk to Michael about being in Road America.
Sorry, I was just saying, when you mentioned Game of Thrones, I'm just like, really?
One of the things that I think is very cool about you, Michael, is with what you do in World Superbike, when you go into a track area, you seem to go early and you kind of get to know the area a little bit. And I saw you were in Chicago maybe yesterday, and you got to see that big chrome jelly bean thing.
Yeah.
So, I didn't even know that existed until I saw his thing.
Yeah,
I told him today I've seen more of Elkhart Lake through his Instagram than I have in the 30 years that I've been coming here.
No, I think it's important that, like, I feel really privileged with the job I've got in World Superbike, and obviously to get the gig to come out here for a few rounds is fantastic. So I think it's important to try and learn a little bit about the area that you're going to be in. So yeah, I went to Chicago, got straight off the plane. 45 minutes later, I was in downtown Chicago. So yeah, I got to take a few pictures. That's kind of cool. Then I drove through Milwaukee, so I drove past the Harley factory.
Oh yeah.
Didn't get a chance to go in, but drove past that. And then up this morning at 3:30, fractured my leg.
That's 3:30, 3:30.
Oh yeah, 3:30 this morning. Yeah, I couldn't sleep, so I did a bit of a jog around the lake and what have you, and then
you gotta tell us about what happened to the leg. So, since you brought it up,
thankfully it's all right, but yeah, I miscounted the steps out of the hotel and took one extra one and went down.
And you're staying at Siebken's.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you right now, you're not the only guy that's ever fallen down the stairs at Siebken's.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's been a few alcohol-induced injuries there. This was bang on this morning before I had breakfast. So
usually people alcohol-induced hurt themselves, and they're also naked at the time too. Usually they don't have any clothes.
Someone actually sent me a tweet saying, "Where are you staying?" I said, Siebken's, I think, is where they've booked me. And they're like, you have to streak. And I'm like, what? And the amount of people today that, when are you streaking? I'm like, it's like this big thing. It's like, no, I'm not, mate. There's nothing to see anyway, so it's not happening.
Everyone goes there on Sunday night to have a few drinks.
Yeah.
And back in the day, like Jim Allen, who was a Dunlop tire technician forever, him and like Randy Renfro, there was always a tradition that they would streak through the bar at some point in the night. But that tradition's, no longer with us.
There we go.
Unfortunately, Sean might have to be forced into it.
No, but It's great, and like I said this morning, after the little mishap, I went to the circuit. I was at the track for sort of 9:30, but I think it's important. You know, I got to do 3 or 4 laps on a scooter, and just really just check out what's around the place. You know, especially with the job that I've got. You know, as a commentator, I think hopefully we don't have any red flags, but if there is ever a situation where something is stopped, you need to film, it's good. And I think to go around the track, as you said in the intro, the track is fantastic.
Right.
Like incredible. You know, it's. Have you ever been to WeatherTech, Laguna? Laguna, which I thought was fantastic circuit. It's a great venue, but this place seems to have everything. It's super fast. Like you see it on the TV, and you don't, I think, get the appreciation of the undulation around the circuit and just how close the fans can get. I did a lap, one of the first laps this one was with Chuck Atzler, and he took me around and was like, pointing out a few different things. And it was just, it's old school is what I said to him. It's an old school venue, you know. I think there's very few tracks in the UK, maybe Alton Park, maybe Brands Hatch, where the fans, you get that natural amphitheatre where the fans are so close. A lot of the European tracks now, they're so far away that they may as well not be at the track, you know what I mean? Where this seems to have everything. It's got undulations, fast corners, slow corners. And then part of one of the features for the live programme this weekend, I took 5 of the guys out around the circuit in a golf cart, and we filmed their favourite corner. And it was just really interesting to hear the way that they're talking. And you can clearly tell that as a rider, they love racing here. And I watched back some of the other races from the last couple of years. It seems to make for great racing. Let's just hope the sun keeps shining and we don't get any rain, and we should have some good races.
Yeah, the racers, most of them will always say if it's not their favorite, it's first or second.
Yeah.
And it's just got that nice feeling to it.
Did your dad ever race here? Did you?
No.
He did?
The first motorcycle road race was not until 1980. So it's Freddie Spencer. He was way done by then. He was in Europe with Kenny.
Right.
But they all like this place, and you can see why.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's just got a good feel to it. It's got a nice flow. It's fast. Yeah. And the thing is like we did some stories on it for the website coming in here, but like the margin of victory here is just like by far the closest of any track we go to.
Cameron's victory, like less than 2 seconds.
Less than 2 seconds for 7
or 8 wins. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But you'll see that like all the races here come right. I mean, nobody ever gets away. But it's like that in the, it's like Phillip Island, right? It's the fastest track. It always has the closest races.
Unless you're Alvaro Bautista on a Ducati Panigale.
That kind of F things up a bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like those fast tracks are the ones that give you a closer.
No, it's true.
A closer race.
Yeah. Today I saw you tweeted out something about the going up the front straight, how it's uphill, and you said it reminded you of somewhere.
Oh yeah, I made a reference to Knockhill, which is a circuit in Scotland near Edinburgh, which is only 1.2 miles. It's a short circuit that they use for the British Superbikes, and one of the features there is they have this real sort of steep incline out of the last hairpin and over the top, and the Superbikes and Supersports just pop a little wheelie, and just the gradient again. I think just you don't get the impression on the TV of just how steep that is.
Right.
Like going up the hill. And I was like, man, you can't even see the top. And even 3/4 of the way up, I kind of stopped the scooter and just had the phone, doing like instant back. I still can't even see the crest of this thing. And again, just from speaking to some of the riders, I spoke to Kyle Wyman earlier as well on the Ducati, and he was saying he can't wait to go up there because he reckons with the new winglets on the Ducati, he's just going to be full jap.
Oh, right.
And he's like,
if you notice on that the stories that we ran on how close the finish last year with Heron and Bobier, their front tires are like this much off the ground.
Oh, really?
At the finish line, which is
because I guess they're doing what, 160 over the top.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
They told me today actually that the top speed's faster on that back straight. Going towards turn 5.
Yeah,
that has a higher top speed than the front straight.
Wow.
Which I didn't think about. But maybe it's the hill.
It is scary when you think like the speeds that they get around this track. Because it's quite narrow,
right?
In terms of the width of the actual circuit itself is narrow, but a lot of the corners on TV they look really stop-start. But even like here, turn 1 down the hill into turn 3, turn 1 is not slow, is it? It's fast,
Right.
So you think, wow, they're actually carrying a lot of momentum onto the straights.
So you talked about Knockhill for that going.
But that
up
was just the bump because I was it's quite.
So the whole circuit, what does it look? What does it remind you of? Does it remind you of anything?
Yeah, I think it reminded me a little bit of Brands Hatch on the full GP circuit. So when the Indy circuit kind of comes back around onto clearways and you go off onto the back straight down to what I can't even think of the name. Is it Coopers? Maybe it's called Coopers, or through Stirling, not Stirling. So you go through Stirling's, then it kind of goes up the rise and then down the old circuit, if you like, where they used to do World Superbike there. just the closeness, I think, of the concrete walls, and you still got the odd little bale on a bridge.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
that just reminded me of that. But one of the tracks which I haven't been to for probably 6 or 7 years was Monza. And I think a lot of the circuit just reminded me of Monza, especially as you come out through turns, through the carousel, you got the little chicane, and then it just winds its way through. And I'm like, wow, this could be Monza, the trees
Yeah,
and
kind
the
of
barrier.
tunnel-ish.
Yeah, tunnel vision, yeah. It just looked
light
great.
green.
Yeah.
You know, Cameron Bobier, it's funny when he comes out here, that you relate to this, Paul. I think I've even talked to you about this. Up in his area, it gets to the point where everything turns brown, and he's always amazed when he comes back here how green it is around here. That, you know, obviously spring comes later here, and we're in full growth season right now. Do you feel that way when you come here too?
Yeah, probably more so than him, because in Northern California, he's way more green than we are.
Right.
You know, our stuff will, you know, our hills and everything have been really green, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, you look and it's like not green anymore.
Right.
And it hasn't even been that hot.
Yeah.
But our foliage just turns brown really quick. But yeah, you come here and you're like, holy smokes, you know, it's like, that's why it reminds me of Europe.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Germany. It's kind of got a
It's
German
got that
feel.
kind of feel
Yeah.
to it. Yeah. I'm just glad that I turned up and there was no snow and there's no rain. Yeah, touch wood.
Right.
You know, like the
Right.
weather we're having in Europe this year is crazy.
Well,
You know,
today we did the media tour in Milwaukee, and John, or from the track, you know, he lives here, and he was, you know, talking to us a little bit about the winters and stuff, and it was just like, I said I don't know if I could live here in the winter, and he looked at me and he said, you definitely could not live here in the winter.
Yeah.
Because he, you know, knows that I kind of like the
So you
sunshine.
like the sun?
Yeah, I don't like being cold, and he said, I couldn't make it through a winter. I'm not going to try now.
But the forecast this weekend is good, I think. Eh?
No, it's supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think
Which
we're
is
gonna
always
be
tricky here, being that it's still kind of early spring for up here. You know, sometimes things can happen, and you know, we've had crazy things from giant windstorms that, you know, remember the year that, what was it, the barrel came off of one of the sides of the canopy and flipped up, and
No.
yeah, we had a big windstorm, and it was one of the holding down one of the canopies for the Yosh.
It's like a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah, it was filled
It
with
just whipped the whole thing.
yeah, just through it. So, and it's been cold. We've had 40 degrees here sometimes, but it's supposed to be perfect, really nice, and
No, that's good.
that'll be really good. Yeah. And you know, the other thing about it is the fans are really into this place too. Oh, Michael, have you ever had a brat before? A bratwurst? I assume you probably know what that is.
I know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, but no.
That's a
no.
big deal here. That's
Oh, really?
That's a big thing at the track. A lot of the concessions that sell, you know, you got to have a brat when you come to Road America.
I try to have one a day.
Yeah.
I haven't yet, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll have one a day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
It's
I go
definitely
back
worth it.
5 pounds heavier.
That's good. That's all good.
So I want to ask you about you. We know you from doing the Paddock show, which Paul and I absolutely love it. When we are at Laguna Seca and we get the riders to come over there, it's so fun. I mean, you have such energy. I don't even know how you do it. I mean, I think you've heard me say this a bunch of times. How do you keep going with this? So we don't have quite the Paddock show this weekend, but can you tell us about sort of what you're going to be doing? Which is different from what you normally do, I think.
Yeah, I think most people that know me from World Superbike, and I think this is a little bit different. But I think what's important is the fact that MotoAmerica is growing. I followed the series even before Chuck and Wayne kind of took the mantle, you know. So I've always followed American racing. I think over the last few years, the caliber of riders, the teams, you can see even today just walking around the paddock. It's my first time in a full MotoAmerica weekend, so just looking around and seeing even some of the teams from the junior riders. These are really nice professional setups, you know, which was a nice surprise to see that. So I think it's good. I think ultimately what the series is trying to do is to engage more with the fans. So one of the things I'll be doing here, also in Pittsburgh and Sonoma, will be to try and just bring a little bit more of that engagement with the fan versus rider, you know, allowing them to get a little bit closer. It's not going to be a paddock show as such,
right?
Because we don't have the infrastructure here. And I think ultimately as well, I think if I was going to be involved in something like that, just being honest, I wouldn't want it to be a carbon copy of what we do in World Superbike, because I think you can always tweak and make things unique for your series, you know? But I'll be doing a lot of stuff on the new Plus Live, or Live Plus. I can Live Plus, which is going to be great. So it's a while since I've done a whole weekend just of mainstream TV, so it's trying to get my head back into that. But that'll be good. And I guess just also using that platform to engage and speak to riders that maybe don't get the airtime, a lot of the airtime, you know, so to actually bring out the characters and the young upcoming riders that we've got in MotoAmerica. So I think that's going to be really nice. We started doing a little bit of that today, which was a load of fun. You know, I had so much fun with it. The 4 or 5 guys that we took around on the golf buggy today, that was great. I'm going to be doing all the podiums, which I guess is probably going to be the area which will be most familiar with me, because I do that in World Superbike.
Right.
So yeah, I'll be doing the normal commentary stuff as well. But I think the podiums is where I'll be able to bring a little bit of the flair that you guys know me from in the World Championship. And especially here at the circuit, they seem to have erected some kind of grandstand, or the seating right near the podium.
Yeah,
so I'm
it's a nice podium.
assuming fans will be able to get in there, so it'll be them watching the podium. So it'll be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I think the facility here and the way that the circuit's set out will allow us to get the crowd whipped up a little bit. And I'll be doing a lot of commentary on the PA system around the circuit. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you're going to be with Robbie, and Robbie's doing the play-by-play. You're doing color commentary. I think that's how it's going to go, isn't it?
Yes, I think they're still kind of tweaking things and defining things, but my understanding is that obviously all the podiums I will do.
Right.
There'll be a mixture of commentary with Robbie. There'll be a few features which is just me. There'll be me and him on camera. And then we'll be doing a load of stuff in terms of in the box. But I think one of the main ideas from Wade and from Chuck is to actually, as you said, use some of the experience I've got from the World Championship down in the pit lane in the paddock. So it may be that we're doing a dual commentary with Robbie in the box, but he throws down to me, and for 10 minutes it's me, and I've got a screen because I'm stood next to, I don't know, Yoshimura Suzuki or whatever it is, and I'm talking to people mid-session that way. So just trying to bring a different vibe and a different dynamic. But again, it's the first time we've done it, so we'll try a few things, and hopefully all the technical stuff works. And then we can build on that and see what does work for the other races that I'm involved with.
One of the things I'm amazed with you when we go to Laguna Seca is how you know our riders. And
that's what I was going to say. You have an advantage of the fact that you've got to know a lot of them from Laguna.
Yeah, it was really nice today, like walking in and just like young riders that I've known in the past, like Braden Ort, for example.
Right.
He come through the Junior Cup and I know him, and he's like, oh my God, and it's quite nice. And even now, just seeing JD, who I know for the last 3 or 4 years from Laguna, it's so great that you're here. So I feel like really welcome. It doesn't feel like a strange paddock, which I thought maybe it would.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what to expect when I came in, but everyone's been super, super friendly. And I think we talked about this over the last few years. It's probably why I'm single and I don't have many friends. I don't leave the house too much, but I love racing. We talked about it just before we came online, and my life is motorsport ever since being a kid with my dad, watching racing with my dad. I've always been into motorcycles, and it's just a massive part of my life. So I dedicate a lot of my spare time to looking at results and races. Like I watched the last 2 or 3 years races from here just to get an idea. As we talked already about the closeness of racing and things like that around this track, just to really understand where are the moves made, what happens, what goes on. Because I think it's really, really important that if I was a fan, which ultimately I am,
right? If
I was a fan, what would I want to be seeing? Whether it's on TV, whether it's a fan in the paddock, whether I'm listening on a radio station, what would I want to get from a MotoAmerica experience or a World Superbike experience? And I think different people have different ideas, and everyone. It's always subjective. Some people will say, I don't like this commentator, I don't like the way he presents or she presents. So I don't really try not to get too worried about that. I do my own thing, I do my own style, and if people like that, that's great. And for those that do, great. And those that don't, I'm sorry that you don't like what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to do something just a little bit different, that tries to make an atmosphere, because there's a lot going on in the paddock that the general public maybe don't see.
Right, because what you're doing is you're basically taking them somewhere where they can't go.
Exactly.
Like if you can go into somebody's truck and talk to them and show them what the inside of the truck looks like, and this guy's on the other side of the fence, he doesn't get to do that. So
and it's the same with what we've tried to do with the paddock show. This started out as being a stage that was used 10 or 15 minutes a day. And then when Dorna took it over, I moved across from TV and media department into marketing. And marketing now within Dorna, they fully understand we need to engage more with the fans. We need to give them this different kind of experience. And I've been really fortunate with that to be able to put my own stamp on it, to try different things. And we had riders singing, even I think, as you said, some of your MotoAmerica riders were singing on stage. And if you'd have said that 5 or 6 years ago, people would have gone, that's never going to happen. But I mean, at Donington this year, we do a charity concert for Two Wheels for Life. And already Alvaro Bautista's agreed that he wants to do it. So it's that MotoGP star leading the World Superbike Championship, and he wants to be involved singing. And I said to him, can you sing? No, but it's for charity, let's do it. And it's like, man, that's cool. And I think that's something that's we've been really fortunate and able to do. And I think we're going to get an element of that this weekend. Obviously, when we go to Laguna, we're going to fully integrate once again with MotoAmerica. Paul, we've already been speaking about how we can just enhance that fan experience. You know, the fans always love Laguna, not just for World Superbike, but because the MotoAmerica show is there as well, and they get a lot of races. It's not just 2 or 3 Superbike races. They get all the MotoAmerica classes as well. And I think we've, together, you know, I've got to know you quite well, and we understand each other. We know where we're coming from, and we're kind of on the same page on a lot of things. And I think ultimately we want to give the fans the best experience, whether that's because they're at a World Championship race or they're at a domestic or a national championship race. And I think that we have a platform now that we can do that. And I think, you know, we talked last year about basic things like an autograph session. Yeah, last year there was some clashes.
Right.
These things happen. You know, that's normal. As you start to grow and grow and grow, these things happen. And I think this year we've already started talking, which I think is probably a month earlier than we did last year. So I think the fact that MotoAmerica with Dorna are working together, the TV production that you guys put on, which again is one of the reasons I wanted to be involved in this. You know, when Chuck said, do you fancy doing this? I know it's not your normal gig, but do you fancy it? And I was quite honest and said, well, I can do it. I've done it before, but let's have a look at what we're talking about. Give me some footage. And he gave me a login, and I looked at it, and I watched the whole of the last race, the whole thing throughout the whole day, just stayed up through the night to watch it. And I'm like, man, this is good. The production is good. It's slick. You know, what you guys are trying to do with the resources that's available is great, you know, and the package is good, the racing is good, the content is good. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
Right.
Know? So I think it's, and I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your asses because you sat here and you've invited me on the pod. I genuinely believe that. If we look at where,
because we gave him a nice couch.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You made me walk 3 and 4 times up and down because you were
that.
too busy having dinner or whatever. But yeah.
So you understand, you've been a fan of racing for a long time and you understand the history.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, I was thinking about this today, is you've probably heard that Wayne is pretty keen on trying to do one of these transatlantic match races. We've never heard your opinion on it. What do you think of that?
I actually went to a transatlantic race at Mallory Park.
Wow.
I can't remember how old I was, but I remember Jamie James, Miguel Duhamel was there. Was it Vance and Hines? I'm testing my memory.
Vance and Hines was Jamie James,
purple and yellow bike. Did he run number 20?
That
there he might have ran something else, but
it might have been different. I know.
He was mostly
Jamie was 2, so he could have been 20.
He could have just thrown a 0 on it.
Maybe I've just got a Vance and Hines bike with
it was Vance and Hines Yamaha.
You're testing me now.
Purple and yellow.
Purple and yellow bike, for sure. And I remember being there and watching it. It was great. The crowd there. I mean, Mallory Park is a small circuit, but the likes of Haslam was racing and all these people. It was great. So yeah, it's funny because I think also Stuart Higgs had mentioned something like that.
Right, Stuart's big on with Wayne.
They've talked
about, can we do some kind of transatlantic race and things. I thought it was great. And I think as long as it was put together in the correct way, you know what I mean? Like, doing something just for the sake of doing it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Which is, you know, we talked about, let's do a paddock show here, but okay, we're not ready for that yet. MotoAmerica's not ready for that yet. So you can do that and spend a lot of money, but if it's not going to get the result you want, what's the point? And I think that's the same in whatever championship you're looking at. If you're going to do it as a one-off race, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, they were talking after one of the tests where they had the GP test and World Superbike test, and Jonathan Rea was faster than pretty much the whole field on the Superbike. And someone had put, well, why don't we at the end of the year bring the top 10 from Superbike and the top 10 from MotoGP on their respective bikes, do a qualifying and let them race? You know?
Wow.
And that was certainly in Europe, they were talking about that the same. And that would be, I think that would be sold out because people would be like, oh, this never happened before. And I think if you're going to do a match race or a transatlantic trophy race, I think you'd have to look at how it was done. I think if you just copied the format from 15, 20 years ago, I'm not saying it would be crap because I don't think it would be. It would still be a great spectacle. But it's like the Daytona 200. It's not the same Daytona 200 that I remember watching when it was Muzzy Kawasaki and Scott Russell winning. You know, on Superbikes. It's different. So things evolve, but the concept I think is a great idea. I'd actually probably want to go one step further. Let's have 2 races at a certain part of the season in the States, and you fly the Brits over, and let's have 2 races in the UK
that's what they were
and fly. I've not heard their conversation. But in my head, if I was looking at promoting it, let's do it like that. Because if you like when I went to watch it, they went to, I think it was Donington. Maybe it was Brands and maybe it was Mallory, but they did 3 circuits, but they're all British circuits.
Right, they never came over
here. And they were like, oh, but the Brits are winning. I'm like, of course the Brits are winning because they're racing here every other weekend, you know? Unless you're in a world championship and you've actually been to experience the tracks in the UK.
Right.
It wouldn't work. So I think if they could do something like that and there was a package around it.
If our races were on the East Coast, it's not that far.
Right.
You wouldn't want to race in California, for example, wouldn't work because
Yeah.
the distance is too great if you wanted to get some fans going back and forth.
Yeah. But what do you? I mean, we're talking about championship. What do you guys think about sort of American talent in the World Championship? And obviously, Jake Gagne, he had a year with Red Bull Honda, and it didn't work out, and he came back. For me, I think Jake still deserved another shot. You know, in my opinion, I got to know Jake really well. He did everything I thought right. Yeah, he had a few crashes and made a few mistakes, but that's racing. It's his first year in Europe.
It's a tough situation because it seems like a lot of these. We make excuses. The situation with Jake, there was some team infrastructure things. When Josh Herron raced in Moto2, there were some team things with that.
Yeah.
His teammate was Johan Zarco. That was interesting. I think if Josh Herron went back over now, he's a different rider than he was then. Yeah. But it sounds like everybody that's gone over and tried to do something, we are making excuses for them. And that's why one of the things that's prevented Cameron from taking that step, because he wants to make sure it's something that's solid and good for him, and he can actually win on it. It's a competitive situation. So
do you think that? I mean, I know Cameron quite well. I'm not saying anything bad about Cameron, but do you think it's because is there an element of? I don't want to say that they're comfortable, but
that's it.
But the salaries that are paid over here. I mean, I've got a lot of friends in the British Championship, and the salaries and the potential money that riders can earn in America compared to BSB, etc. is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's a reason or that's why Cameron's doing it, but what I'm saying is that a factor? Because for sure, going to, I don't know, let's say Cameron was to go to a Yamaha team and it was the team of, I don't know, Melandri, of course. If let's say Melandri wasn't on that bike this year and it was Cameron, for sure he wouldn't have been on, I don't know what he gets paid here, but we're talking 100 grand minimum, aren't we? It's big money that he can earn.
Right.
He wouldn't necessarily have had that opportunity
Not
in
at all,
Europe.
yeah.
And I don't know the salaries of Melandri and all of the bonuses that they get paid, but from what a lot of people say, they say that's actually a fact. It's not just here, but it's also in Australia. It's the same. There's been great quick riders in Australia, but they prefer to stay in Australia because they can earn better bonuses if they're winning races. I mean, I don't know, maybe you know it more than me, but
yeah, I just think it comes down to how bad you want to be world champion.
Yeah.
As
simple as that. Yeah.
And it's like, I always have this conversation with people. It's like, if you come from an upbringing or a country that you want to get out of, if that makes sense, you're going to have an advantage over somebody, I think, that's already comfortable.
Yeah.
I think you find that in tennis. I think you find
in
that in
sports.
any sport. Like, I would never bet against somebody from a war and torn country kind of a thing. No, seriously, because that guy, wants it more than, it's,
I see where you're coming from.
You know what I mean? You live in Southern California, you live whatever, and you've got everything you need.
But I think I also take your point that if we're talking about Cameron, it's not just Cameron, but there is no point of a rider of Cameron's caliber going across on a bike that's only capable of finishing 10th.
Right.
Why would you?
Well, exactly.
That is why would you?
Right.
You're better off staying where you are. But I think, and I know it's difficult because I'm not on that side with running a team, but again, with the job that I've got, I've been lucky to go and see riders and championships around the world. And you see, even again now, we've got some young Australian riders, super, super fast, but they're not being given a shot by European teams or European team managers or rider managers because whether it's a money thing, I don't know. But I mean, even just looking in MotoAmerica, you've got some really quick riders, like really super quick. I mean, PJ Jacobson is a prime example. I got to know PJ really well, runner-up in the World Supersport Championship, really nice guy. Didn't work out for him in Superbike. He's come back over here. And again, people, PJ's going to walk, like he's going to piss into the distance by 10 seconds. And I said to someone in EICMA, which is a big show in Italy at the end of November, beginning of November, and I said, I'm not discrediting PJ. He almost won a world championship. The guy can ride a bike.
Yeah.
But the level in MotoAmerica, looking in the past, look at the races that we saw with Garrett, with JD, with these guys. You've got some really fast kids, some fast talent here. And you look at it now, and again, there's been weather things that have happened, mechanical issues, these things can happen, but PJ's not head and shoulders above everybody. He's still riding really, really well, but you've got the legs of Hayden.
No, he's going to have his hands full all the time.
And that comes back to my point that, if we look around the next riders from MotoAmerica or BSB even, British Championship, everyone raves about BSB, and I'm not knocking it. It's a fantastic championship. It's run really well. It's promoted fantastically. But again, no disrespect to the leading riders, but they're not making choices to go into the World Championship. They want to stay there. And I don't know. No, but the kid clearly wants to be a world champion, so he's got himself into that position. You can have a learning year and learn, and that was my point I was trying to make about Jake, is that Gagne, for me, should have had another chance.
Right.
With a team. I don't know what team it would have been, but he now knows the circuit, he knows how the World Championship works, and there wasn't a bike. So he comes back. Now, great, he's landed on his feet. The Shiba BMW is a really professional team.
Yep.
Jake Shibe, sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
That's my English accent.
No,
So he was complaining about being next to Chris.
I'm just trying to help you for tomorrow. If you have to talk about Shibe racing.
But you know, the point is, he's landed on his feet. He's got a good team. Same with Celtic Racing with PJ. These are good professional teams. So that's great that they've got that. But where are the opportunities for these next up and coming riders to go to?
I think when Sean said that we make excuses for him, and I think he's right. I mean, the bottom line is any opportunity we've had of late, we haven't done enough.
Yeah.
But I also think they have to do more. I think if you go over there as an American, you probably have to do a bit more than a guy that's there from Italy or a guy that's there from Spain.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows that it's not easy. It's not even close to being easy. Like, I remember when Schwantz went and when Wayne went, they didn't have instant results, but they did kind of, you know what I mean? They right away they were there, and you knew they were there, and they were there to stay, and they just kept moving forward, and they did it quickly.
Yeah.
And I think now when you compare it, you know, we send somebody over there and it's like, God, you're 15th, you're 17th, you know, why aren't you 5th or why aren't you 6th or whatever? But it's just difficult because like you say, when they come over here, you know, it shows how good we actually are.
For sure.
But I think it's just a different deal when you're going over there, you're in a different team, you're in a different country at a track maybe you haven't been to.
Yeah.
I would like to see one of our top guys go over there on a really good team with a off season of testing.
Yeah, the proper program.
The proper program. And then if they fail, then okay, they failed.
At least they've given it a shot.
But I think some of the excuses that we come up for them is actually, a lot of those excuses are kind of legitimate, that they kind of get thrown in the deep end and maybe not with a good team and not with a good bike.
For sure.
Because I do think there's a lot of talent here. I just don't think there just hasn't been the right. And it might be some kid now that's racing in Junior Cup that's going to be the first guy that makes that step.
But I think it's not just on the bike, is it? I mean, you know yourself with the history and the time that you've been involved in the sport. Yes, you've got to have the right bike, the right package. You've got to be able to twist the wrist and all that. That's normal. But now it is a business, isn't it? I mean, I see it certainly in the World Championship. People are watching non-stop from the minute you get to the airport and you're doing a stupid Instagram story. Every man and his dog is watching whatever you do.
Right.
All the time. You can never get away from that. And one of the things that I think the Europeans are really good at, especially the French, the Spanish, the Italians, they are trained, they are schooled in that. So if you go to any of the riders, for example, in the Junior World Championship, 90% of them will have an up-to-date website. They're on social media, they have Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're they're doing all the stuff off track that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, you never needed to do that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I think that's also a differentiator because it is a business. Potential teams, potential sponsors are looking at, well, what return are we going to get? You know, so sometimes they'll go, actually, we can take this rider because he's got 200,000 followers. We know he's not going to win a world championship. He might win the odd race, but for our brand and for us to get that money, which gets this rider on the second bike, that's what we're going to go down that.
And also, if you remember back when Kenny went and Eddie went and Wayne went, you know, there was like, and John Hopkins went. It was like there was also at that point in time there was like a Kenny Roberts who was an American team owner, and he naturally wanted to have an American rider. And then when he got the American rider that he wanted, whether it was Baldwin or Wayne or Momola, they came into a team that kind of already felt like family because it's an American guy it's basically an American team.
Yeah.
Well, once those team owners stopped, then it's an Italian team owner or a Spanish team owner, they're going to naturally gravitate towards the Spanish kid they've known since he was 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah. But that's like when EBR was in the championship and they got a lot of stick. And okay, the bike was never going to win the world championship. But I guess the point there is exactly what you just said. They went for 2 American riders.
They gave 2 Americans an opportunity.
They gave them a chance for the season. It was fully funded. Okay, they struggled. The bike wasn't always 100% reliable. But the principle of what they were trying to do completely underlines what you've just said. You know, and then they did try and come back the following year, I think, with Nicola Canepa, and they scored some points and they did make a step. Then sadly, it all ended. But that is the
yeah. Like if Wayne, for example, had a World Superbike team now, he would have 2 Americans on it. And they'd probably be really successful. They'd go to somebody that they felt comfortable with. They'd have some guidance in their own language, somebody to help them make them feel at home, and their results would be different.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned EBR. I was going to bring this up. So I had written a story a couple weeks ago, more than that maybe, when I had seen on Facebook Jeff May had mentioned he was going to be racing here, and so I got in touch and we talked about it. I did a story, and I think I mentioned to him about you being here, and I don't know if he knew it. So I know he has a relationship with you from World Superbike and stuff. He was so happy that he was racing here, and you were.
I just actually saw them in the ice cream shop. Oh, anyone that knows me, I've got a massive sweet tooth, so I went in there to get a soda and an ice cream, and he was in there with his wife Jodie, and they ended up buying me the ice cream. So thanks, guys. Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's the thing. We've talked about the fact that the margin of victory is pretty close here. We know last year and the year before has kind of been the turning point for Cameron Beaubier. So what do you think is the story this weekend? Do you think this is another case where Cameron's going to turn it around? Do you think Tony's going to come back? You know, what do you think, Paul?
Well, I think it'd be hard to bet against Cameron just based on the past. But then also when you look at those margin of victories, those could have easily just gone to whoever was second. Like I think in that story I wrote, Roger Lee missed out on winning races, like 3 of them by less than half a second combined. Mm-hmm. But I think for Cameron to get his season going again like he did last year, I would expect that he would winning both races here would be something that would be hugely beneficial to him, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. That being said, I also wouldn't be surprised if Tony pulls something out here as well. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at if you base it on what we've seen in the last few years, you have to go into every race thinking that one of those 2 guys will win, and then every once in a while someone else is going to win. But I think if you had to,
do you think?
Yeah, I mean every single race those 2 guys have the ability to win. Yeah. The other guys kind of bounce in and out, but they don't line up every race as being the 2 guys.
See, I see the outside bet this weekend, Garrett Gerloff.
I was going to say that. I'm the same way.
I was watching on TV.
Oh,
in the
so
last
you
race.
saw it. Okay.
I wanted to reach into the TV and give that guy a Kleenex. I was like, man, come on, don't cry.
Can you believe that?
That was incredible.
Yeah.
But you know what that showed to me? That's a kid who is super, super talented, really nice guy off the track as well, from what I know of him.
Yeah.
That is just a guy who wants to win.
Yes.
Oh,
and that wasn't a case of him being a sort. I don't think he was. I mean, I've not had a chance to speak to him, but I think that was just a case of, man, I give it my all. It wasn't good enough. What have I got to do to win a race?
And I think he saw that as an opportunity that slipped away. And I think it also hurts when it's a guy that you've been racing against for a long time and he gets it before you do. The same thing happened with Kevin and Wayne Rainey. You know, when Kevin won that Japanese Grand Prix, I know that Wayne was probably particularly upset about that. Not because he doesn't want success. Well, in that case, he didn't want success for the guy. But in these 2, I think they want success for each other. But I think it was a blow to Garrett that was... Garrett wouldn't have cried and been as emotional after that race if Cameron Beaubier would have won or if Tony would have won. But I think it just was particularly hurtful when it was JD. Yeah. And it probably would have worked the other way. But I think you're right with Garrett. I think Garrett's one of those guys, and I've seen it before, where it takes a little while, but once they win one, they could win 4 in a row. You know?
Yeah. I kind of jumped on you when you said that. I didn't give you a chance to get it all out, but I completely agree with you about Garrett. He has always been motivated by things like that. I mean, all riders are, I understand that. For sure. But I think that's going to make him stronger for this round, if not one coming up. Yeah. He's going to get a win pretty soon.
And JD's confidence is going to be sky high.
Oh, big time,
You know, and as I said, Matthew's still getting used to a different electronics package. There's a bit going on there. But again, given the right circumstances, you never know, eh?
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the championship.
Well. I mean, Heron, for sure, has got to be there.
He was second last year by,
you know. And then you go into Super...
And Nat's penis, I think, separated him. Yeah. That's how small the gap was. That's small.
That's small. That is quite small.
But, I guess.
But really, the first thing is, of course, Cameron and Tony. But look how many riders we talked about.
Right.
That are possible. And that proves the depth of the class.
Well, it also makes it so the championship's never really over.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's been championships where only one or two guys, those two guys are going to either be first or second. So you only gain 5 points on the guy.
Yeah.
But when you win and that guy gets fifth because there's 4 other guys in there, suddenly the championship's back.
Yeah.
And Supersport, what do you think about Supersport? I tell you what, I got to speak to him today for the first time, and I was so impressed. Sean Dillon Kelly.
Oh my gosh.
What a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had him on this, and he seems like he's 30 and not 17.
Yeah. Like, I literally spoke to him, and he was, great to see you. How are you? Talked and just chatting. Probably 25. I only went to say hello. 25 minutes later, we're still chatting away.
Yeah.
And
no, he's good.
And he's got a good crew around him.
He does.
With Chris Ulrich and that team, they're going to nurture him. And
yeah,
he, for me, is someone that, again, just from what I've seen on the races so far, and certainly the way that he conducted himself in the paddock, again, maybe it's because it's Michael, I've got to say the right thing, but I don't think it was.
No, that's how he is with everybody.
He just genuinely seemed like a really nice
Yeah, he's so
guy.
nice you think he's killed somebody in the bones.
Yeah.
Right? Seriously, you're like, he can't be this nice. Yeah. It's kind of like Sean Bice, except I know you guys have bones in the club.
Yeah, you got to watch out for people.
But seriously, sometimes people are so nice, you're like, okay,
yeah, no, there's something wrong there.
Yeah. But I mean, just going back to what we were talking about in terms of future talent, future champions, this kid is just turned 17?
Yeah, just
turned 17.
Yeah.
And what
he's amazing. He's
a mature head on his shoulders. And
that's maybe, who knows, that might be the next kid that makes a difference. You just don't know, but he's definitely on the right path. Yeah. I think he's still maybe a year away from winning here, but I think he's.
But it's his first season on a big bike.
Right? Oh no, that's what I mean.
Red Bull rookies and smaller Moto3 style bikes onto this bigger bike.
You give him another year, and
nice.
I think it depends what he wants to do with his career. I think he told us on the podcast that his goal is to get back to Europe, which more power to him.
Yeah.
But I think, I can see him being here racing superbikes and winning races too. So.
And also he wants to go to Europe, but there's many different avenues to go to Europe. How deep is your pocket? If you want to go to Moto3, you've got to probably go through FIM, CV, Repsol. There you're looking at 200 grand before you even get started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I still think a young guy who has success here in our Superbike series could go directly to World Superbike. Don't you agree?
Yeah, well, I was going to say the idea or the route, I mean, I don't know who's advising him. I'm sure he's got some good people around him, but the route at that age, that young, would be to say, okay, the ultimate goal is you want to be MotoGP. Every rider's going to say that. That's ultimately where you want to go. There's nothing wrong with going and spending 1 or 2 seasons in World Supersport. You're 19 by the end of it. You've won a few races, you're a world champion, whatever. That door will open up now because of the way that Dorna, they own both championships. So they are going to be able to open doors and things like that. And
they do want an American.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what Alvaro's done in World Superbike, as much as, he's winning races and he's proving, he's one of the fastest riders out there. I think issues maybe with the bike. I mean, Thailand, the bike was 17 kilometers faster than anything else. So
crazy.
That's it, but that's racing. They didn't say that a couple of years ago when they had to turn Jonathan's bike down, So that's the rules. But I think that what that has proven is that now all of a sudden you've got a lot of riders interested in World Superbike again. And I think all championships, again, you may agree or not agree, but championships always go through this cycle. I remember being at Brands Hatch in World Superbikes with 120,000 people, then being at the GP and there's 35, 40,000 people, and now it's gone the other way. And the same with BSB. I mean, there was days when James Hayden was riding and Sean Emmett, 14 or 15 bikes on the grid. Now you've got 28 bikes on the grid.
Right.
And it always just goes like this. And that's why I never tried to get involved too much on social media and retaliate, because it just winds me up. I'm like, you guys, you're just comparing apples with grapes, It's just, I spoke with Carl Wyman today. We did a whole feature about the difference between his Ducati and Alvaro's Ducati. And they had all the fairings off and we were able to get real up close and do that. And obviously I've been lucky enough to get quite close to the Ducati in World Superbike. Not as close as we did today with Kyle's, but it was really, really interesting that to the spectator at home, and even to me, the some of the things he was talking about, that's nowhere near the bike that Alvaro's riding. Nowhere near the bike that he's riding. It's a stock bike with the lights off, with a World Superbike spec ignition.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But the way that he was able to explain it, again, if you're watching it on the live show over the weekend, the fans, I think, will be in for a real treat because we got really close to it. We could see the different, not just from the electronics point, but the different exhaust systems, the different aerodynamics, the different suspensions. It was a really, really nice feature. And again, that just comes back to the point that we're saying in terms of what are we comparing this with?
Right.
You've got to compare it apples with apples,
right?
And we're not. You can only do a direct reference. But even if you're comparing apples with apples, you've got to look at different teammates. Bautista versus Chaz. Everyone's all of a sudden saying that Chaz Davies, who's been in the top 3 in the World Championship for the last 3 or 4 years, suddenly can't ride a bike.
Right.
No, the guy had a massive crash in testing. He's never ridden a bike with these aerodynamics. And funny enough, Kyle kind of backed this up. He said, the fact that in the past I've ridden bikes without these winglets, now I get on a bike, the downforce, the way this bike is planted is so different. Alvaro Bautista's come into a world championship riding these winglets for 2 or 3 years on a Ducati and MotoGP.
Right.
And there's sometimes just certain riders are more comfortable on a bike than another
That's it.
guy.
You know?
I mean, it's like anything else, you know?
But your rules in MotoAmerica, they are similar to, they're not BS, but you have electronics, full electronics.
Yeah, no, it's very close
It's
to
as
World
close
Tour.
to
Right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
supposed. Yeah, that was the intention to get it there. But you know, it's funny you mentioned that about like Batista's bike and Wyman's. A couple of years ago, I couldn't believe how different those Pata Yamahas were to the factory.
Yeah.
And they're maybe a little closer now, but it didn't even look like the same bike.
Yeah.
The tank and everything is different. There's a lot of the suspension's a lot softer, I guess, on the World Superbike. Cameron said that when he went over and raced in that one in Donington. But you know, you'd think it's the same motorcycle, but it really isn't. You know?
No, exactly. But I guess, you know, to the spectator on the side, it's so easy to be a keyboard warrior and just go, boom, 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 boom. It's like, no, mate, it's not like that.
Right.
You know? And that, again, comes back to what we're saying, you know, who is the next American rider to go across there? If you're going across there on let's say, a middle running team, they're still good teams.
Yes.
You know? But
Right.
the difference in a world championship is you have 5 fully manufactured sponsored teams. So in the World Superbikes, now we have 10 bikes that are all factory supported.
Right.
And then you've got another team that's a satellite team. So all of a sudden you're looking at 12th, 13th, 14th place that are all factory or semi-factory bikes. Then you're going to go in on a team, well, the best you can really hope for, even if you ride the wheels off it, is maybe 10th or 11th.
Right, and then to the keyboard warrior, you look like a failure.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you don't
yeah,
get
what's
to go
this guy
back.
playing at? He's crap, bugger off back to America. It's like,
Yeah.
no, actually give the guy some credit for what he's doing, because on paper, and that's again what, not infuriating, but it wound me up a little bit, where people were saying that, you know, Jake last year, you know, he didn't deserve the place in the first place. And like, he was within half a second of Leon right from the off. And in some races, he was faster than Leon. And Leon didn't win races because of where the bike was. So again, guys, like, cut Jake a little bit of slack here. He's never, you said already with the team, it's a European team. Okay, they all speak English. They can speak English, but he's an American. The culture's different. I know that we all speak the same language, but the culture is different.
Yeah.
It is very, very different.
Yeah.
You know, all these things add up. You know, you've got to, as you said, if you're going to go over there, let's take an American crew chief. Let's take someone with you that is actually going to be in the box, that can actually do the translation. Why is Kianari in World Superbikes? Now, he's still a very good rider, but he's there because his job, purely and simply, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, is to make sure that anything that's being fed back from Leon or from him is not lost in translation back to the factory.
Exactly.
That's why he's there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think just when you go over there, you just got to have somebody that you can.
Someone in your corner.
It's like when we went with Kenny Roberts. I mean, if my dad wasn't there, Kenny would still be trying to find the first race in his motorhome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he didn't know where he was going or what he was doing. I mean, our big joke was like his windshield was always clean.
Yeah.
Because his motorhome was like 4 feet behind us everywhere we went because he was scared of getting lost. But you got to have somebody like that that's been there, done that, but you're already comfortable with, and to I think to make things a lot easier.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you as well, quite interesting, because it's going to be the first time commentating on the Liquid Moly Junior Cup. This kid, Rocco Landers, he seems like the real deal, eh?
Yeah, he's another one like Sean Dillon Kelly, you know, age, wisdom beyond his age. And and he's been
really
destroying it.
What he's done here, like at the first 2 races in Atlanta, it's like, okay, this hasn't happened.
Yeah, I mean, the gap was incredible. And even, to be fair, in the last round, where he started from the pit lane and still won.
Yeah.
And if
the only hiccup he's had so far has been in the wet race, which was
where he didn't know that he could have come in and changed tires.
Yeah, it was just you know, it was just one of those races. I mean, he actually did good to just keep doing what he was doing because of his championship lead was already good anyway, so he didn't want to do anything silly. But yeah,
he seems quick.
He's been really fast. Like I was like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
I tried to find him today, but I didn't get a chance to find him because I wanted to kind of have a chat to him and see how he was. But you know,
and that's funny too when you see these kids. Like you'll see him, like, you know, you'll see this little kid like, you know, popping a wheelie on his bicycle around the paddock, and you just think like, who's that kid? And the next thing you know, he's got leathers on and a helmet, and he's doing what he does on the track, and you're like, wow, you know, he's just a kid.
But that's another reason I think why fans should try and get to MotoAmerica, you know, because again, it's a very inclusive paddock. From what I'm seeing today, it's quite open, and again, you know, there's all the trade alley, all the various stands and merchandise and stuff, but you can get close to the riders. So that kind of concept that we have in the World Championship, where hey, pay your money, you can come into the pitch, you can walk around, you can see the riders, you've got the autograph sessions. it's fully inclusive and interactive. And I think that, again, that's something that hopefully will start to come out this year on the TV packages that are together, that, you know, actually it can be a family event. It's not just, you know, Dad wants to go and watch the races on the track, that's great, but go and look at the mini bikes. Kids can come and get posters and have autographs and selfies.
Yeah, you can walk through our paddock and talk to 10 different riders that are just standing there out in the open with everybody. Yeah. And like, that's what's
cool.
It's way cool. It's way different.
Accessible. Yeah.
You know, MotoGP. And again, there's something to be said for that exclusivity too, because for some reason those people will stand at the fence for 2 hours to hopefully get a glimpse of Valentino Rossi.
I was in Qatar for the first race because I worked for the circuit there this year, and again, as you said, just such a different concept. But there are people just hanging over the fence just for a glimpse of Valentino,
right?
And not just Valentino, Marquez, Lorenzo, all of them. And I don't think they moved. It was like 50-degree heat. I was melting, and these guys they didn't move for like 4 hours. It's like he's not going to come out, guys.
Right?
He's waiting for you to leave.
Yeah, and if he does, he's making a mad dash to wherever he's going.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
It is fantastic.
That's one of those things where it's if you're telling somebody you can't have something, they're going to want it even more. Yeah. You know, that's that philosophy, I guess.
But I think that's where Superbikes, whether it's a World Championship or even BSB or MotoAmerica, that's what's always been the ethos of Superbikes, hasn't it? It's always been, you know,
that
inclusivity and friendly and family atmosphere, and long may it continue.
Absolutely.
We should wrap this thing up.
Yeah, we did a good session there. I had a million more questions for you, Michael. I'll just have to ask you. And in our next podcast,
no worries.
No, okay.
Well, thanks for coming.
No, thanks for
coming to our country. I hope your ankle feels better.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Thanks, Sean. And we're going to be here all weekend. Obviously, Michael.
I feel like an amateur alongside him. He knows more crap than I know.
He knows what he knows is exactly right.
It's useless though.
No, it's so much useless crap. We have less, but it means more.
I'm already visualizing a double act at Laguna on the Paddock show. My mind is already going.
Anyhow, so thanks to you guys for being here, and obviously thanks to our listeners, and actually in this case maybe viewers. So thanks for joining us, and you'll be able to catch this podcast on Friday morning.